Indians and Mughals have a terrible past and a grievously sickening history. A barbaric tribe from Uzbekistan invades India and ends up ruling a big chunk of the nation for over 200 years. Then, Maratha Empire defeat the Mughals in mid 1700s and end the Mughal Sultanate forever. Mughals have been erased from history books since they took a big chunk of the texts, and rightly so. But it is surprising that in India, the Mughals are still present in political debates, discussions, pan shops, mutual talks, morning walks, dining rooms. The Mughals are present in all these discussions. It's not very hard to find a debate about infamous Uzbeki invaders on your favorite TV news channel. While one side will always emphasize on the atrocities committed by the barbaric tribes upon the Hindu civilization, the others, their lovers, the lovers of these invaders, will always point out Taj Mahal, the Red Fort, the Qawwalis, the biryani, the ruafza, everything the lovers of Mughals want you to associate them with. Even politically, Mughals are a polarizing topic. For some, they are the greatest heroes, while for the others, they are the worst of the criminals mankind has ever seen. While the left ecosystem always ends up ignoring the brutalities they committed, the right can't make you forget the atrocities they committed upon us. If you read a book about the so called greatness of Mughals, you will easily find 20 odd books on your Amazon, while if you dig down about how bad they were, there are 20 books on the other side as well. In one side of the story, the Mughals are the villains. In the second story, the Mughals are great. I would like to present a third, a pretty neutral standpoint from which we will analyze exactly how Mughals influenced Indian economy whence they ruled. If we compare the Mughal period of India from 1526 to 1757 till the Battle of Palasi and compare it to the rest of the world, we will get a clear idea as to how prosperous or detrimental was this time, especially in comparison to what was going on in Western Europe in the so called Western civilization in the same time. My hypothesis is that the era when the Mughals were ruling India, the Dutch, the French, the Italians, the Spanish, the Portuguese made the biggest heaps in scientific innovation and military developments mankind hadn't seen in eons. During this time, science defeated church's dogmas in the Western European nations. For example, the belief that Earth is flat was a pretty common notion around the 17 and the 1800s, but it was dismantled when science developed and proved it wrong. And if we look at the world before 14th century, pretty much all of the globe was similar in understanding and usage of technology. There were cannons and gunpowder, but no clocks and compass. There were ships, but no solar systems. There were metal armors, but no bulletproof vests. And this was pretty uniform across the globe. But after 1500s, Western Europe changed, developed, and took a leap ahead of the rest of the world, while India seemed to be stuck in time in this era. Though there are instances when we see church pushing back on science, the new scientific innovations challenging the popular beliefs. But in the end, the scientific innovations were established as the way of life in Western European nations. So, in comparison, this era from 1526 to the mid 1700s was the time when Europe was making these giant leaps in scientific innovation. Though there were dogmas, but they were pretty much challenging them and cutting them down slowly. In 1609, Galileo turned his telescope towards the sky, and the whole universe started opening up all kinds of mysteries. What is the earth? What is the planet? What is the star? What are the stars? The character of God was suddenly visible to people, and this was a big challenge for the church because the church was saying that the whole world revolves around the earth, and that was their geocentric model. So science challenged church and gradually kept on pushing back the dogmas to the point where science was established as the status quo of belief systems. And you will see that in modern life, in today's life, all the things you are using, like my phone, this light, camera, everything, you go to the kitchen, from the dishwasher to the microwave oven to the stove, everything you will see in your life, from the pen to the watch, almost everything, cars, airplanes, whatever you are seeing around you, the roots of modern science start from around this era, from the start of 1500s. A lot of things like this happened at the time, and in a way, humanity moves ahead. The circulation of blood in human body and how it affects our heart and other inner organs is found, igniting a way to find newer techniques to treat diseases and medical conditions. A form of a university systems are established across European nations, which helps in standardizing education and helping new innovators teach and learn together. Now, at the same time, what were the Mughals doing in India except for looting, destroying temples, and committing atrocities on women? This can be a very difficult question for lovers who can't stop glorifying the Mughal invaders enough. Actually, at this time, in the so called Mughal era, there was no scientific innovation or development taking on place in India. No university was made, no method was established to separate state from religion. No money was spent on developing new technology. No attempt was even made to try to copy what was going on in other portions of the world which were getting ahead of us at the time. Imagine other portions of the world, especially the Western European nations, were leaping far ahead in everything they could have ever done. The Mughals were not at all interested in even trying to do what they were trying. So, the biggest innovations of science, the biggest inventions, the entire industrial revolution passed on without touching Indian lands. This was the time European colonizers were using slavery to build their buildings and to take care of their farms, while the innovative minds were out to make scientific innovations that would turn them into the rulers of the world, and their ships were out to loot and trade and build systems that would give them an undue advantage that still exists in the global order. While the Mughals were busy trying to destroy Rajput dynasties and other Hindu kingdoms, they were busy creating a religious, extremist military state. The rest of the world was trying to build technology. Take, for example, Akbar the Great and his beloved Fatehpur Sikri fort. When drought hit the city, Akbar simply abandoned the city, didn't even try to fix the irrigation system of the city because there was no method for them to build an irrigation system that would solve that issue. They knew a simple trick: abandon a place if it stops giving you good results, and go and plunder and loot a new city, a newer land, which is developed, built well. In comparison, nearly a century later, when Chhatrapati Shivaji conquered the city, instead of trying to build a highly militarized city, he thought about the people's suffering and built a dam that quenched thirst of hundreds of thousands of people that resided in the city and around in villages nearing the city. A similar case comes into light when grandfather of Akbar, Zahiruddin Muhammad, famously known as Babur, conquered Delhi in 1526 after winning the second Battle of Panipat. The first thing he did after winning the battle wasn't building dams or castles or forts. The first thing he did was building harems to keep his sex slaves. The difference was simple. Mughals believed in looting, destroying, conquering, exploiting, and forgetting the consequences of their bizarre actions. In general, the matter is that the period of scientific development of the world is the dark age of India. And it's not a coincidence that that was the so called Mughal era. While even the worst of tyrants try to build scientific centers to consolidate power, Mughals were busy trying to experiment with ghazals and qawwalis, trying to enforce Farsi onto India as language of commands, orders, and records. Though the common Indians spoke no Farsi, their economic miscalculations made them tax Indians too highly. Religious taxes, such as jizya, were brought in. Hindus were forced to pay extra taxes, and many who couldn't were forced to convert their faith. The cost of taxes was so high, and since there was no effort put to develop any economic system, the middle class of the nation did not grow for centuries. People made no economic advancements for centuries and multiple generations. If one was born in poverty, there was no way for him or her to get out of it through work or any other method because the economic systems laid upon them simply did not give them enough freedom to do so. The Mughals did not even care about the condition of the rest of the people in the world. If some Mughal overlord was exploiting women in his local area, nothing was done to safeguard the area. Such brutal systems forced many Hindu women to choose death by jumping into fire, famously known as sati, rather than waiting to be exploited by the invaders who would want to put them in their harems. The Mughals only cared for their military, the taxes, and entertainment. No care in the world for building a navy, advancing trade, improving financial systems. Science was the least of their concern. Comparing the Mughal era with ancient Hindu empires, we realize that amongst different Hindu empires, India made great advancements in science, mathematics, medicine, and other fields. Take, for example, Maharishi Sushrut Samhita, a book of medicine and surgery written in Sanskrit that became the central commandment for all medical innovations of the 20th century. It was done in 600 BCE, 2600 years before today, and nearly 2100 years before the so called Mughal era. Or compare it to the great book of cosmology written during Gupta Empire in 5th century by a sage named Varaha Mihir. He wrote a book named Surya Siddhant, which explained many questions of astronomy and cosmology 1600 years before us. This list of scientific developments of sages and temple priests doing their great researches inside temple complex and revolutionizing India forever is a story that is greatly complex and deep and truly fascinating. But unfortunately, after the establishment of Delhi Sultanate and subsequently Mughal Sultanate, scientific innovations, and the temper to develop anything tried out of India.